Hey guys, what's up? Another video keeping my channel active. I'm going to do a little cologne comparison review of two fragrances that both get a lot of love as perhaps the best vanilla fragrances on the market. If you see reviews, a lot of people say that. And besides that, they both get compared to each other a lot. And that would be spiritueuse vanille. I probably said that wrong, but whatever. And Tom Ford's Private Blend Tobacco Vanille. Tom Ford, the Tobacco Vanille, is a lot of people say it's known as a basically a stronger version of the Guerlain fragrance, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on that because considering the reviews I read of these are actually quite a bit different than from what I read. And I know I said it in the last video, if the color in the video is messed up and the quality's bad, I don't know how to get my camera to work very well on Windows 8, so I don't know if I need to buy a new webcam, but bear with me. So the first one I'm going to do is this guy, Guerlain's, like I said, I butchered the name. Let's just call it Double Vanille, whatever. So even without opening the cap, I do get a warm vanilla from the cap. I do. And from the reviews, a lot of people say like boozy vanilla. Okay, from the cap, I'll agree with that. But instantly when I put it on my skin, and I have read on Fragnatica, some people have said that the newer bottles actually smell a little bit different than the older bottles, so that could be. I have no idea what decant this is from. I actually get, without making it complicated, I don't know if anyone has ever smelled a basically black and mild cigarette cigar, if anyone knows what that is. And I'm actually absolutely shocked that no one I've seen in any review has compared it to that, because probably the first 4 hours, that is almost exactly what I get. I don't smell any vanilla on my skin unless I'm looking for it. I really just smell a lot, very smoky, a lot of incense, a black and mild cigarette cigar, whatever those are called. I don't know if it's just that the people that are buying this, and of course, both these are hundreds of dollars. They're very expensive. So maybe, I'm too pauperish for anybody else. And like anyone that actually is buying these fragrances, big bottles, are buying real cigars. So they haven't smelt that, you know what I mean? But that is almost exactly what I get for like 4 hours, a black and mild cigarette cigar. Maybe there's a little bit of vanilla in the background at the beginning. It's sweet, so some people say boozy. So I guess maybe like if I'm telling myself that's what I'm smelling, okay, I get that. But yeah, that's basically what I get for 4 hours. On the initial blast is so smoky and there's so much incense. I actually was scared when I smelled this because this was like basically a step away from cigarette smoke, like the very first initial blast. Again, it dies down after that initial blast, but yeah, black and mild cigarette cigar. And that's not to say that that's bad, because I don't know anyone that I know in real life that doesn't like that smell. It smells good, right? And I asked a couple of people when I wore this, and they also thought it smelled like that, and they did like it. So that kind of like pipe tobacco, it's a nice smell. And I should say for the first 4 hours, it actually is deceptively strong. I thought it was kind of faint after the first blast when I sprayed it. But I mean, say if my hand was over here and my face is here, I could smell it 4 hours. Like had good projection. It was deceptively strong for what it is. And then finally, after 4 hours, it did eventually, as it started drying down, the vanilla started to come out more. And yeah, I got kind of more of a just classic kind of like fragrance, you think that has vanilla in it. It's a nice vanilla dry down. But definitely not from reviews did I smell anything that was just like, some people were like, oh, just only vanilla, or like boozy vanilla, vanilla extract, you know what I mean? Because again, honestly, I didn't even think of vanilla when I first sprayed this on my skin, but from the cap. And even then, it's still pretty black and mild, honestly. From the cap, again, I'm getting a lot of vanilla, but the first 4 hours, I don't think of vanilla at all. So that's my opinion. That's my first wearing, you know what I mean? my initial impression, but it's definitely different than what other people said. Now this guy, Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille or whatever, this from the cap does smell very similar to what it smelled like on my skin. But again, this is going to be different than what I read reviews. The first blast of this is pretty interesting, actually. I get a lot of spices, like dried fruits, spices, tobacco, maybe a little bit, but it's definitely not the first thing I think of. Cinnamon, and I will say this is actually probably one of the nicer cinnamons I've smelled because I don't actually like cinnamon, really, personally. But smelling this cinnamon, I was like, wow, this is actually kind of nice. And when you get deeper into it, it's kind of like an inviting cinnamon. So I actually, when you get deeper into it and you like enjoy the fragrance yourself, I actually get some cherry in it. And this is probably going to sound kind of bad, but actually the opening of this kind of reminds me of a more manly, better done CK1 shock. That probably sounds kind of bad, but kind of that cherry tobacco. And again, the tobacco for me at the very beginning of this is very in the background, and I don't get basically any vanilla at all at the start. Yeah, so like kind of like a Calvin Klein 1 shock actually. But whereas Calvin Klein's 1 shock is more fizzy and peppery, and that kind of like, you know, that cherry drink kind of fizziness kind of ness to it. This is definitely more spicy, and the cherry is way in the background with the cinnamon at top, and the spiciness is almost kind of like a fruity food almost. So yeah, that's the first few hours. It's definitely interesting, and it's very strong the very first few hours. The first time I tried both of these, I sprayed just a little bit, not very much. Now, once that first few hours dries down, this finally starts to turn into, again, maybe that people are actually buying this don't, they're probably more rich and they're buying more high quality stuff. But I get a black and mild kind of smell with the cherry. So I haven't smelled the cherry black and mild offhand because I actually don't smoke, but I would assume that's what a cherry black and mild smells like because I'm getting a more black and mild kind of smell with a hint of cherry in the background. And then say that lasts for like another couple hours or something, and then that goes down. And then I get a more cliche kind of vanilla dry down. So the vanilla again just creeps up. It's very faint in the beginning for me, and then as the fragrance goes down, all the other notes are dying, and the vanilla is coming out. And that's not to say it bad, but it's for me a more what you smell in a lot of other fragrances. The vanilla, it's just nice. You know what I mean? It's not anything. The vanilla isn't anything crazy for me. Like a lot of people are saying, this is just crazy vanilla extract or even vanilla ice cream. I don't get any of that. And again, the vanilla in this, I don't even really think of vanilla till, like 5 hours into it. Now, for this, I will say, after that initial blast, that first few hours, projection on longevity, this does not last as long. Again, my first impression of this. Like, this is like lasting all day. This, I would say, I got, 3 hours of that, very spicy, cinnamon, cherry, tobacco, very in the background, like spicy fruit kind of thing, and almost Christmassy. I mean, it's definitely very interesting the first few hours. Then it, starts to dry down. You start getting a black and mild with some cherry in the background with the vanilla just starting to come up. And then it's just a vanilla kind of dry down that you smell in a lot of fragrances, really. So, and whereas this is, 4 hours, and I'm still smelling black and mild before it starts to dry down. Both of these are unisex, and I will say that surprised me a lot because this, again, is very smoky, and I don't know, it's not particularly feminine to me. This isn't particularly feminine either to me. I guess especially compared to something like Tuscan Leather, I don't know if people have spoke Tuscan Leather, but Tuscan Leather is pretty manly for the first 5 hours, but then you definitely get a lot of raspberry and jasmine and Tuscan leather, and it's very, I mean, the last, like I said, well, Tuscan leather lasts a lot longer than this, that's for sure. Tuscan leather, you know, after the leather dries down, you get a very velvety, raspberry jasmine, basically hand lotion that is fairly strong, that lasts for just 10 hours, you know what I mean? But this, after the initial 3 hours, you know, this definitely dies down, so this was not as strong on me. Again, I was very easy on the trigger when I was trying these. That's basically my opinion, and like, so quite a bit different, because not what was I expecting. I actually got more of a tobacco smell from this, and people are saying this is like the baby version of this, basically, which I'm not sure about that. Tobacco wise, definitely not. I guess the first few hours of this is definitely like shocking to your nose. Like, I would definitely say this is much more interesting to me, just because it has definitely 3 different stages. This had 2 distinct stages, 3 distinct stages, 2 distinct stages. So I can only assume that's why people thought that this is like, you know, a more out there version, because the first few hours, the first few hours kind of smells like a more manly version of CK Shot, whereas this doesn't. I guess you could say that both of these during the dry down, it is kind of a milk chocolatey vanilla, maybe this more so than the other. And definitely not to the point of being a cordial, where CK Shot can definitely smell like a cherry cordial a little bit, but this can smell kind of like a vanilla milk chocolate a little bit. So that's kind of my opinion, because it is different than I think a lot of people that have I've read that people have smelt. So I just wanted to give my opinion, because Black and Mild, again, I'm just saying that I guess people are too rich to buy Black and Mild, because that is what I get a lot of out of these fragrances, especially this one and this one after a few hours. So that's my review, keeping my channel active. Again, if the quality and the color was terrible, again, I don't feel like buying a new webcam for Windows 8, and I don't know how to get this to work. So that's basically my review. I will say, for compliment-wise, I guess what people think, I think that I can imagine, I'll say kind of like a Pure Malt and Pure Havana. Imagine if this was Pure Havana. I think Pure Havana is a more even road for compliments, and whereas Pure Malt has bigger highs and lows. You know what I mean? So I can imagine that Double Vanille gets more straight compliments, whereas Tobacco Vanille, I'm sure there's just going to be people that are just going to love it, but there's going to be people that probably don't like it, just because it's just 3 distinct stages. So I mean, someone's going to smell you, and you got to get to that area that they like, and it's much more out there at the very first beginning of it. So that's basically my thing. Double Vanille, very from the cap, vanilla a little bit, but 4 hours of pretty strong and lasting Black and Mild, and then the cliche kind of vanilla that a lot of fragrances have. That, don't get me wrong, it's nice, and a Black and Mild is nice, but that's what I got. And Tobacco Vanille, a Christmassy tobacco in the background, cinnamon, spicy fruits, sort of cherry for the first few hours, then a Black and Mild with some cherry, with the vanilla finally come to creep up, and then the final stage of vanilla kind of fragrance. So that's what I got. That's my review. The end.